as you know, I'm a member of the Women's Club, and we're so happy to host you here tonight and have Brian Jones pick this as the location for the meeting.
All right, well, yeah, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm going to introduce my boss, Senator Brian Jones, to come up and say a few words, and then we'll kind of go over the structure and everything we got going on for the meeting after Senator comes up and addresses you. So, Senator Jones.
Well, I just want to say thank you all very much. Thank you to the community of Alpine for caring so much about what happens in our backcountry and the recreational activities that we want to maintain for our future generations. It's important to me. I grew up in Santee, as many of you know, but I've been out, mountain climbing, mountain biking, jeeping, off-roading in East County, ever since I was a kid, and boating on San Isabel, or not San Isabel, that's in Colorado, San Vicente, El Cap, and fishing and all of that. So these issues are important to me as well. There's a couple of people I want to recognize this afternoon and thank them for coming. First of all, the superintendent for State Parks, Ray Lennox, is here this afternoon. He's brought an entire team of folks here. So I hope that you guys are, if you've got questions about other parks besides what we're talking about here tonight, hopefully they're available one-on-one in the back afterward. Obviously, Carlos from Sweetwater Authority and his team right here. I think the new chair, Juan Martinez is the new chair. Alessandro is the public affairs liaison for Sweetwater. She's here as well. And tonight, I'm sorry I can't stay for the whole evening tonight, but I know you're in good hands between my staff and the Sweetwater folks that are here. I do want to say thanks to the Women's Club for hosting tonight. Thank you all very much for that. You have a great facility. My night last night ended around 12:30 in the morning. My day today started at 7 this morning. I flew in from Sacramento this afternoon, had one meeting after I landed, and then came right to here. And I just looked, I have about 275 emails that I haven't gone to today and a bunch of phone calls. So I appreciate your graciousness in allowing me to get things kicked off and get going. I want to introduce the rest of my team. Kyle Herman is here, and you guys met Nick. Now, I think most of you know that the celebrity that we have this evening that's going to run the show for us, Barry Jantz, former chief of staff, former CEO for Sharp of Grossmont Healthcare District, which kind of...
Sharp was just our tenant.
Yeah, Sharp was a tenant. Barry was very smart in picking his tenant for the hospital district. So
the voters got to approve it.
Yes, that's right. But we're going to let Barry run the show tonight, and he's very astute at this. He's very good at this and very fair. And Barry Jantz. And okay, I'm sorry. All right.
Yeah, thanks again to a Women's Club for hosting us. So the way that this is going to go is tonight's meeting is first and foremost solely to get community input on how to use these funds available for trail improvement at Loveland. The distinction I want to make is that anything unrelated to the trail improvement grant, because there's a bunch of other stuff that's out there. This is I'd like to see this as a starting point in moving forward and working together with all the different agencies who are here this evening. Our office, other elected offices in the area who have an interest here, and so I want to be very clear that this is not one final meeting to decide this and then everyone's done. But I do want to make sure that we stay on track for this meeting tonight being directly only related to the grant money for trail improvement at Loveland. So With that said, I'll introduce Barry, and then I'll have Barry bring up Sweetwater, and you guys can go for it.
Thank you. How you all doing? Again, Barry Jams, in case you don't, Brian acted, I should say, Senator Jones, excuse me, acted like I'm a celebrity or something. It doesn't mean you know me. So I was CEO of the Reservoir Healthcare District and served on the La Mesa City Council for 16 years. And that all started when I was 12, obviously. So anyway, it's good to be here. I know you had, let me just ask, how many of you were at the workshop in January? Okay, well, let me ask this way then, because I expected to be more hands. How many were not at the workshop? Okay, so more than half. So that tells you maybe how you want to give an explanation on the grants and the opportunity, what kind of deadlines you're up against, and what the state is looking for, and those sorts of things. So it's good to be asked. It's a little cold out, so I'm glad we have the fireplace on. I got here a little early because I was out in Santee, and I wrapped up about 2 o'clock. So I went to the Well, one of my favorite coffee shops right over here, and I was sitting in there, and it was like this. And they said, "Oh, we're closing at 4 o'clock, but you can go out on the patio." And I said, I'm going in my car, and I'm turning the heat on, and getting some more work done. So anyway, I'm glad you're all here. So I think Nick kind of set the tone a little bit. We're going to have Sweetwater. Sit down and relax, whatever you'd like. So Paulina and Carlos from Sweetwater, and as part of what you say, why don't you introduce yourselves a little bit as well, and then you can talk a little bit about the $750,000 and the opportunities and what kind of input you're looking for. And I know friends of Loveland have maybe a little presentation, right, that you're going to do, and then we'll go right to public input. And as things progress, we will, I may seek some clarity on whether you want things in writing as well as just public comment, or if you've got people, I know you've got people taking notes here, right? Anybody doing Facebook Live out there or anything like that? Anybody recording it? Okay, perfect. Good. Is that Facebook Live?
It'll be on YouTube.
Okay, it'll be on YouTube. Wonderful. Yes, question right now.
I just wanted to add that there's an additional presentation that represents proposals that were crowdsourced throughout the community.
Okay, and can we, and how long is yours?
It's 4 slides, and I have the others queued up.
Okay, and is yours a digital, electronic one? How long is yours? Carolyn, how long is yours?
Maybe 8 slides.
Oh, okay. And is that ready to go here? Is that keyed up and ready to go?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. So, Nick, we all good?
Good.
Okay, we all good? Anybody else want anything for clarity? All right. We're going to, oh, by the way, let me ask this, because I know a few people were introduced. If you are with a state agency, federal agency, Fish and Game, Fish and Wildlife, state parks, I know some of you are here, any county agencies, any state agencies, just stand up. I'm not going to introduce you all, just stand up so we know you're here and you're paying attention. All right. What's that?
Could you introduce the representatives of the different agencies, please?
Shall we do that, Nick? All right, why don't you real quickly just say who you are. Just say you are. And what agency?
California State Park.
Okay.
Dan Cole, County of San Diego, Department of Parks and Recreation.
All right.
Noel Bragenbach, California State Parks and Statewide Health.
Excellent. All right.
San Maria State Park, Park and Rec Specialist.
Ray Lennox, District Superintendent of the Colorado Desert District.
Okay. I saw a couple of people in the back, maybe.
Travis Line, Chair of the Alpine Planning Group.
Oh, hi, Travis. Good to see you.
Here, number volunteer.
Okay. All right.
Michaela Pock, I'm from Supervisor Bill.
Oh, great. Okay. And who else? Anybody else? Okay, thank you. That helps. All right, we're going to go right to you and introduce yourselves a little bit and tell us about the grant opportunity.
I'll start us off. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Paulina Martinez Perez, and I'm the chair of the Sweetwater Authority Board. We had a change in the chairmanship, so you might have known Director Hector Martinez, who was the chair previous to me. I am the new chair, and I'm just really excited to be here to take this as an opportunity to hear the input from this community. I have not been part of any of the conversations prior to this, so it was very important for me to be here today. And I just really look forward to hear what you have to say and to record everything you have to say and think about how we can work together, collaborate, and make sure that everybody's interest is served in the best way possible. So I'm here to listen. And I want to introduce our general manager, Carlos Quintero, who's going to give you a bigger and broader overview, especially for those who were not present at the prior meeting, to get yourself acquainted to why we are here. So can we give a round of applause to our general manager?
Well, first of all, I would like to recognize, I think the senator may have left. You know, he is the champion of this money that we have for the community, so I think we're very grateful. And also very happy, I spoke to someone from the Sacramento staff and said that he had meetings and he might not be able to make the flight, so it was a pleasant surprise that he was here. You might know me, some of you, heard of me. I'm the general manager for Sweetwater Authority. We're the water provider for Western Chula Vista, National City, and Bonita. And the link with this community is that we own a facility, Loveland Dam and Loveland Reservoir, that is a water supply, works in conjunction with Sweetwater Reservoir, built in the 1940s, probably 1945 or so. And that water is supplying, it's transferred using the Sweetwater riverbed, 17 miles of it, to be treated at the Purdue treatment plant that's in Spring Valley. So I know that there's been sort of challenging times with the community. I think we may not have seen eye to eye, so I think this is the second meeting. So I think this, for us, for our board, is important. Even though it may feel that, you know, we're on different planets sometimes, but you know, we're not. We're all here in this great room. And our goal is to listen. I know there's priorities. We have our priorities for sure. But you know, there's always room to work together. And I think, I really hope that we can use this time to really try to get somewhere. I have a saying that the bucket of trust is low to fill up, but very easy to tip over. And maybe we can just slowly continue to build trust to the point that we could actually get something that is beneficial to all of you and in line with the Sweetwater Authority's interests or needs. So I do ask, you know, just the parentheses, you know, respect from all of you. I think that goes without saying. You know, sometimes we get very excited about things, and you know, at the end of the day, we're all people. We're all working in some fashion or another. You live here, you know, we're somewhere else, but we're all humans sharing the same resources. So I think it's important to keep that perspective. Sometimes we're not going to agree, but it doesn't mean that, you know, we have to look at each other the wrong way and just walk away. Right? We can always continue to talk. So having said that, the grant is actually, it's gone through somewhat of a roller coaster. So it was approved with the last budget, AB 102, $750,000 with really very little restrictions, which is actually really good, but it also makes it challenging because what are we going to do with it, right? The budget says Loveland Trail improvements, that's it, $750,000 towards that. What does that mean? I mean, it means different things for all of us, right? But most importantly, it could mean something very different to our regulators, our Department of Water Resources, and they could say, look, you know what, trail improvements, you want this, I'm not sure, right? So we still have to get through that filter, through that gate. This grant has gone, I did mention, a bit of a roller coaster. In fact, for a few months, the funds were frozen with the budget shortfall in the state. Governor took any money that was not allocated and said, this money is not going anywhere, funds are frozen. Then we got the happy notice or good email that they have been released. Bucket of trust, right? Is the state gonna do this again? I don't know. But I think at this point it is in our best interest to try to come up with a plan. I did commit to DWR that we would like to have a work plan approved by them and an agreement signed by the end of the state fiscal year, which is June 30th. So this gives us some time. Now, We don't have to be perfect in terms of what we have there, in terms of the costs, but we need a rough estimate, and we can always make adjustments. So that is the goal now. Short-term goal is to figure out how this money is gonna be spent, even if it's preliminary, and then submit that plan to the Department of Water Resources and get an agreement that we will sign. There's always the opportunity to make amendments as we move forward. The other restriction I hear from them is that this funding expires June 30th, 2025. So we have 15 months basically to spend this money in one way or another. So I want to put that in perspective. I know all ideas are good ideas, but some of them take longer to implement. So just keep that in mind when you present this to when we have this discussion. I mean, we can do great things, but some of these things, the bigger they are, often the costlier they are, and the more time it takes. So just to keep that in perspective. And that's really it. I mean, I think we're fortunate that the grant again is open. It allows us latitude to decide how we want to spend that money. But again, there's the risk that it may be just too vague and we don't really come up with a plan. And that's really all I have as far as the grant. I know that at the last meeting we did hear some ideas. I know there's been some ideas circulating, like using there's a property that's owned actually by Sweetwater Authority to the east, with some sort of trail access that is under an easement to SDG&E. So we can maybe talk a little bit about that. I know there's been, certainly from us, the talk about building a bridge to connect that ravine from where the current trail is to the other side, so the fishing platform could be accessed. So that is something that we have a preliminary cost. The cost is high, about $400,000, $170,000 worth of material. And the challenge that we have, just to keep it in mind, access is really limited. So it's hard to get any heavy equipment down there. In fact, you probably can't without causing significant damage. So we might get a small mini X or something, or it may have to be done by hand. So whenever we're ready to put this out for a bid, then contractors get creative and then come up with ways to do this. Spin a park, I think the concept of a park. So I think I'd like to hear more about that, and what the vision for this is, where would it be? I think that's what I remember. But I'm sure as we discuss, I'll defer to very much to guide this discussion, but this is what I remember from our previous conversations. But again, this is the good opportunity to bring them again, so we don't forget. And then we're taking notes, so we're now in a position where we have a commitment to the state to submit a work plan. So we will be working on this in the next few weeks. So that's all I have for now.
So for clarity then, so you've given us a good idea of the deadline you're facing when you want to have a work plan done, so you're getting public input. Obviously, there must be some kind of parameters around the $750,000. I mean, can you describe those generally? Like, obviously, you mentioned one. I mean, as soon as you try to do any heavy equipment, you get into issues. How does the state feel about anything significant enough that even though it may not be costly, it may trigger? How is CEQA triggered at any? Does the California Environmental Quality Act come in at any point in this process where then, because you've got to go through that process, it's more than $750,000, even though the project cost is less, and you've got a problem? Maybe that's what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, well, certainly that could drive the cost up. If we start to widen the trails, take some habitat, I mean, there's usually mitigation costs that might come with it. So, in a way, the simpler, the better. I mean, I think the bridge itself, we're envisioning doing some geotech work, just to make sure that whatever we put out there is, can withstand the test of time and gravity. But if it's just bringing some materials, putting the pieces together, I think the impact is really minimal. If we go through this easement, the SDG&E, and really just keep it as is, I don't really envision anything out of the ordinary, that would just be as is. So it really depends on what we want to see. And we would have a responsibility to do a brief assessment, if you will, whether what applicability CEQA has for this. I think there's a question.
Yeah, there's a question. Let me just clarify one other thing then. And did Sweetwater already have a plan for any of the 750?
Well, we have a concept, we have a estimated budget, very rough budget. We did ask for quotes for the materials for the bridge. That would be, I don't have a map, but it's basically, I'm sure for those of you that have been there, as you're walking down the trail, as you get to the steps that are made with timbers, right around there, that's the proposal to put a bridge across that ravine and then get to the other side where the fishing platform is. That is the bridge. I think the bridge is about 80 to 100 feet or so, roughly. And we're proposing a very simple, just aluminum type bridge. Similar to, if you walk down, there's a bridge, very short, probably about a 20-foot bridge to the left, to the east. Something like that, but it's going to be a longer span.
And then I'm going to go to this place here, but just, so for anybody who's not here, that would like to provide any input to you, they're going to see a video, or they're going to be told by anybody here how to communicate. How would you like to see that communication? Email.
I mean, email works. I think
Instagram message.
Sure, I'm not.
MySpace.
We are trying to do more Instagram. I know our staff is doing a great job. I still do not have an account. Don't tell our chair. But we can create a list. We have a webpage. You know, submit comments. I think that's how we done this.
I guess is it clear that if they went to the webpage, they'd find one email that they're supposed to send comments to regarding this? I guess that's. Yeah.
I will defer to.
And then I'll get you.
We don't have a dedicated email address for that per se. There is a very easy contact us form, and then in that form, any mention of this trail would be forwarded to Carlos as project manager. So just going to sweetwater.org, that is our website. On there, right on the front, you'll see a contact us button, and from there you can email us. In addition, if you've had any phone calls, you can call us at 619-420-1413. Again, mention that you have something you'd like to speak about the Loveland Trail, and it'll get routed over.
Is it of interest to create a mailing list like Loveland Trails Improvements at sweetwater.org? Does that work? That way you can forward documents, comments? Is that something that we could easily do? That is not. I mean, we just talk to our information systems team.
If there's one spot where we can all see everything that's being submitted and things like that, kind of a community forum.
We could do that in our webpage, just so documents that get submitted to be just uploaded, and that way anything that you submitted to us will keep as, you know, like maybe this presentation, and I know, you did mention Carolyn?
Yeah.
Yeah, Carolyn, sorry. You did have some input to crowdsourcing, so we could always upload that to the webpage. So is that something, or if that's something that you think is of value, we can do.
Straw poll. How many would think that's a value?
Does it sound like you see on your dashboard? What's your dashboard?
I mean, we can look at that. I mean, we'll have like a recreation tab. I think we have it will be Loveland, and we'll keep track of all the documentation, so anybody can see it at any time.
As long as there's a correct link that we can send out to friends and family, hey, this is where all the proposals are and all the comments.
We'll work on that and get it more information.
Thank you. Okay, I've got here and Russell, I think David.
I meant to.
Right.
So, I'm sorry, can we just back up one little bit?
Sure. Can everybody hear her, or does she need a mic?
When this money was originally requested from the state, what was the problem that this proposal was attempting to solve? What is the spirit of the request originally? What were you trying to accomplish with this grant?
Right, so that answers what I described as building that bridge through significant erosion back in the storms in it was on Martin Luther King Day, 2023. We had probably a really strong storm. I'm estimating a 1 in 500 year storm, similar to what we had in National City in the Bonito Valley not too long ago. We had something similar last year, and it created a lot of erosion. And to the point that crossing from where the current trail is to where the fishing platform was too dangerous. It was just too steep. So what we talked to Senator staff was to look at funding, which he provided to help us put that bridge. The grant is $750,000. Again, it's really just very general. The grant is for Loveland Road Group. That's it. That's all we have. There's no other restrictions. There's no other guidelines.
But are you committed to the bridge then, and does that then reduce the amount of money that's available for other things?
That is what we're recommending. Yes. To
How
have
much
that.
does the bridge cost, do you think?
We estimate $400,000.
So we're really looking at $350,000 for community input.
That is correct. Now, there's, the fishing platform, suffered damage. It was an asset in our, property, what is it called? Our property list from our insurance. So we did get $99,000 back from our insurance company. That is sitting there in a way. We could put it back into the fishing platform. We brought this to our committee, and there was interest in holding on to that money and potentially putting it in terms of other things related to the Loveland trails. So we could potentially have $99,000 extra.
So potentially $450,000 perhaps
That
for
is
community input.
That is
Okay.
yes.
That helps.
Thank you. Thanks for helping with that clarity.
Just before all more questions come up, so I just want to mention, because you brought up the SDG easement, potentially is, I know that's going to be part of plans and proposals and whatnot. I spoke with SDG&E about what that process looks like, and ultimately, if SDG&E does approve a proposal, that still has to be approved by the CPUC at the state level. So I want everyone to understand that. So that's a very long process, most likely. So for this particular funds, highly unlikely that the time frame would fit for that. I'm not giving any recommendations. I just wanted to share that information with all of you, just so you have it. Yeah.
Is that easement, is that from the Hamul side or the Alpine side?
No one's answering. The easement, Hamul side or Alpine side?
I would defer to you that know the area better than I do.
Alpine, everyone agrees Alpine, okay. There was a question here, I want to do one last thing that I should have done, and I wouldn't have even done it except Travis. I was asking for agencies. Travis stood up and introduced himself. Any other elected officials? Travis, introduce yourself again, so we can hear who the elected officials are.
I'm just the chair of the Alpine Community Planning Group, Travis Line.
Right. Anthony Carvalho, stand up and introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm on the Cajon Valley School Board and a frequent visitor at Loveland Reservoir, so that's what I'm doing.
So even people from El Cajon. School board members. Any other elected officials here? Yes.
Mary Davis, Alpine Community Planning Group.
There you go. Thank you. And Lynn, I know you're not elected, but you're kind of,
I'm Lynn Meyer, I'm the president and CEO of the Alpine Chamber of Commerce. We handle Alpine and all of the backcountry.
Is there anybody else who feels they're important enough to be? Okay, so I think we're here, yes.
Well, I just wanted to request a point of clarification following my neighbors, some wrong neighbors here tonight, about the bridge. So the question was, do we just have $350,000 left because are you committed? And you responded, Carlos, that's your recommendation. So is it a recommendation, or is that literally already?
So should we look at $750 to spend or $400 to spend?
Right.
The Sweetwater board is eventually going to have to vote on any kind of recommendation. Is that correct, or is this between staff and the state?
Well, our board's interested in this, so when we have a work plan, we'll certainly send it to our board. I mean, this is a good question. We asked, that's what we asked for the money, right? To put that bridge there. Now, users of the area, how do you get across? I mean, that's a question for you. I don't think it's safe. I mean, there's just this big void there. And right now there's water, but when there's no water, how are you gonna get across? I'm open to comments on this.
I just wanted a clarification, if it's a recommendation or if it's.
Of course, and my question right off the bat is if you went to the state, requested funding, you turned into legislation, and that legislation is specific to fixing that, then how much leeway do you really have? And I think that's why you're struggling with an answer. So, yes, well.
Don may have another question about the bridge, but I would like to go about the fishing float because I'll just get this out here. I think we should be very careful about discussing that fishing float. It hasn't been before the public until tonight. Some of us, Friend Loveland or myself, are watching that through Sweetwater board meeting, and we need to be very careful about the economics of that and the necessity. If that is the only ADA-like facility there, this is a deeper problem than saying that slum gets in here and literally say, well, it could go to something else. We should be very careful with this. And that's from a deep perspective of watching this pier, of talking to Mr. Quintero about the pier for years, and actually trying to protect the pier myself. And just knowing who uses that pier, young families, elders, it is a very rough place. And so we might be forgetting about some people if we just lump it out there and say, well, this is some money. And then you have the economics of starting new versus a replacement project, and administrative fees, and debate, and we're gonna lose, in my opinion. And I think there's not 100% consensus, but I think the people that looked at this fairly deeply would ask people to support, being very careful, and probably just put that fishing pier back where it was, how it was, because it's a slippery slope.
Okay, so I'm gonna suggest before we go off, into the weeds here, I suggest that on the amount, we know we have 750. There's at least a recommendation. I mean, this was why the legislation was requested in the first place to do that. So whether there's leeway, I don't know. I'd say people start making their recommendations, what they'd like to see. You've got to put a plan together. The state's going to have to buy off on the plan. And if the plan is not consistent with the state legislation, you're going to hear that back from, the state. So I'd say we need to move ahead. Let's, I know there's other hands up. I'm going to take one more, but then I want to go to the presentations that have been formalized. So, okay, go ahead.
My observation about your statement, sir, about the scope of the grant is that what you are identifying as a major component of $400,000 for a bridge is not in the grant proposal. So that might be after the fact that you have decided on that, but it's not in the grant proposal that was approved by the state. Just an observation. So to me, the entire $850,000, $849,000 with the $99,000 that you tucked away is available to our input, to what the community feels is important.
Well, I can answer that. Yeah. There's really nothing on the ground. It is trails improvements. That's it. There's nothing else. It's $750,000 for Loveland trail improvements. That's how it was passed by the legislature. So whether it's a bridge, whether it's widening the trail, whether it's putting lights, whether it's putting more benches, whether it's putting a Tai Chi platform, it's open, right? So when we got this grant, I thought it was important to reach out to. That's what we're here. We could have just taken our own way and say, DWR, here's our plan. This is what we want, right? I mean, I think personally the bridge is important because that's how you get to the fishing platform. But certainly if the community sees no value in this, then the area where the trail is and the area where the fishing platform is going to be isolated. You might have to scramble and do this. I think that's kind of dangerous. But certainly if all of you feel that building a bridge is not good use of this money, well, we need an alternative, right? That could be done in the time frame that we have for the grant, and that it's consistent with the title of the grant, which is Loveland Trail Improvements. So that's why I think we're here to listen to you. We have done some of this work as far as asking for quotes and trying to estimate the labor, but we have not committed to that, right? We still have to, we have not issued a purchase order to any vendor. We have not gone out and asked for quotes. This would be a public work contract. We have not done this, right? So I think the time is right. Right now it's March 14th, mid-March. We have 3.5 months to tell DWR how we want to spend this money and have an agreement. We would have to, there'll be a binding agreement that we tell them what we're going to spend the money on, how much it's going to cost. And Sweetwater Authority, as the grant recipient, we will, once we figure out whatever we want to construct, we'll have to pay the contractor, buy the material, do a report to DWR, and then get our money back, right? That's how these processes work. It's not that we're going to get a check for $750,000. It's going to be reimbursed as we spend it. That's how these grants usually work.
Okay, I think we fleshed that out. So Darlene, are you handling this?
It's gonna be Karen.
Karen, come on up and you got it.
Thank you.
All right.
I know there were a lot of great ideas, so we'll make this really quick so we can get on to the rest of them as well. My name is Karen Wood. I'm the Executive Director of Friends of Loveland Reservoir. Can everyone hear me all right? Okay. And these are some nice ideas that we came up with. As General Manager Quintero pointed out, the trails are awful. And our first proposal is widen those trails so we can get to the fishing float, so everything is more accessible. I don't know how many of you have been out there hiking. I know my husband and I have been out there, and it's very challenging. Even people in great condition have difficulty getting to the fishing or to the platform. Our second idea is maybe for those who can't make the hike all the way down to Loveland. I know the women from the Women's Club have said, can I just get out there and have a great view? So we're proposing perhaps a nice lookout point at a convenient location that didn't require a lot of grading, something that's easily accessible from the parking lot or maybe a separate parking lot, but it could be dedicated to the veterans. If we needed more money, we could sell dedicated bricks or blocks inscribed with your loved one's name. So that's another idea that we have. And Mr. Quintero is going to love this one, but we would love to see dogs. Now, every other reservoir in San Diego County, except for the ones owned by Sweetwater, allow dogs. And as long as they're on a leash and they're 50 feet from the water, that's the deal. And especially if we can open up these trails, the SDG&E easement trails, far from the water. You can't get to the water from those trails. So allowing dogs, I think it would make the lake much more usable. I think a lot more people would be out there enjoying nature and having their best friend with them. So I'm going to...
We have 2 other presentations in the queue. Did anyone else bring a presentation that they want to share?
I just got a question. When we go to Sweetwater, there's 2 horse crossing gates right next to the entrance. And I parked at the reservoir, and I was told to leave. Are those horse trails part of Sweetwater's property or no?
Was this posed as a question to their presentation, or?
Well, in general, because I want to know if you're going to spend money. I belong to a couple of questioning groups with a few hundred people, and there's horse gates that say horse crossings.
Wait a minute.
There's trails going through.
Is this a question? We're having a.
That's the other trail.
Right now, we're having a
Well,
presentation.
wait, are we allowed to park there to go use those trails or what? That's what I'm saying.
It's open 6 to 5 in the winter, 6 to 6 in the summer.
What was that?
It's open 6 to 6, 6 a.m. to 6
Yeah,
p.m.
but why was I told I couldn't park there to use the trails?
I'm not sure they told you that.
So
So we're allowed to park there to use them.
Sir, instead of getting into a debate here,
I'm
I
not a
suggest.
debater, I just want to.
No, I think they've heard your concerns, so if we can get your contact information, I think, someone will clarify what the issue was with whatever you did. Did we have any questions on the Friends of Loveland presentation? Okay, none? So someone else had a presentation, right?
Can I just make a comment?
Yeah.
I know, I was just sharing with the chair, I do have a dog, I love my dog. You know, whatever we do, it has to be cleared by the Division of Wastewater. So they're very restrictive in terms of what we can do, what we can't do. So we can ask them, say, can you allow dogs up to this limit, right? And they may say, yes, but you need to do A, B, and C, or they may say, look, no, because you put a limit and then that limit is crossed. I don't know, right? I think that overall, I know at Sweetwater Reservoir, that has been an issue for those of you that follow Sweetwater recreation. We've been trying to work with the county for a long time, and the maintenance has been an issue. Because who's going to maintain, who's going to enforce that there's no horses where they don't have to be, that there's no dogs where they have to be. This is an active drinking water supply. So those are the constraints, is not because I just don't want you to let, if you take the dogs there, this is really the state. Now, we can ask, I'm sure open to that, and it gets done in writing, and they'll respond in writing, and I can share that response with you. So it's not, again, that we don't want to, there's restrictions.
Right. Yes, I bought pallet boards 2 years ago, and then I was disappointed to find out that I couldn't put them in any freshwater reservoirs in San Diego County.
Yes, you can.
And the reason, well, I can as long as, which ones?
Yeah, Loveland.
Okay.
You can go to Waterboard, you can start at the bridge and walk down.
So I guess I can. If I want to work. No, but I found out that it's because there's no swimming. And the assumption is when I'm using my paddleboard that I won't be able to stay on it, so therefore I'd be swimming. So they're just wrong.
Yeah, all the freshwater reservoirs.
All right. So did we? The gentleman who had the comment, it seems like we need some clarity about what happened with him. So you got okay, perfect. All right. So we had another presentation. Was that who was making the other presentation? There was another 8-slide presentation.
My wife.
Perfect.
My wife Carolyn.
Carolyn?
While we're getting ready, Don, did you want to ask your question?
Yeah,
Because you had a stand
if I don't mind, and I hope I don't put John Allen on the spot, because I think this will benefit you guys more than anybody else. John knows the area with the trails and stuff, and I know exactly where we're trying to put the bridge, and I concur, with my disabilities, hiking down in there, going over the fishing float. I would like to know, John, would you be willing to be the center point for trails out there and work with Sweetwater to possibly put that bridge further up on the trail across? Yeah, I'm just saying, it'll benefit you, and it'll save probably around $250,000. But, if you have a subject matter expert in your back pocket, to work with you that knows the trail system better than anybody else, if you would be willing to, I think that's a good idea.
Let me make a comment. So thanks for that comment. What maybe we can do is meet at the site. We need to do geotechnical work, right? So I don't want to take the geotechnical consultant and have them start taking more into the bridge. So there's a better idea. We're certainly open to it. And we would go and say, okay, this is where we need to have a survey so we can make sure that whatever we put out there is on solid footings and it's not a challenge. So certainly open to the idea, especially if it means saving money. That's what we like to do.
John Allen, Trails Advocate. As far as nomination accepted, gladly offering to work with formally and informally Sweetwater from the beginning of this process before COVID, actively pursuing new improvements on the trails, offering my services as a volunteer to assist with that. I've been helping helping user groups identify and refine some of the user-defined trails that are in existence, making them safer, making them more user accessible. I've got some great ideas. I've been trained by some of the finest California State Parks, trails teams, and maintenance units. I've worked with the Mountain Bike Association, the Ultra Runners, the equestrian groups. I've been to trails workshops. I have the manual. I started my career with the CCC way too long ago to remember. But I've been doing this for a little while. I'd be more than happy to collaborate on some ideas. I'm not an expert as far as degrees, geo-technical stuff, engineering. But when it comes to putting stuff, boots on the ground, getting the job done, and having some good ideas about good alignments that work for all the multiple user groups with consideration for all, I'd be more than happy to work with you. Please accept my offer, and I look forward to working with you on it.
You mentioned a lot of things you didn't get paddleboarders though. Anthony's over here texting me with information on my rights as a paddleboarder. I won't pull it up till later, okay? All right, so are we ready for this next presentation? Russell and Carol. Does anybody would like to start providing input to the Sweetwater Authority on ideas for the $750,000? I know we're going to see a formal presentation, but I want to make sure we have enough time to do all this too. So while we're getting this worked out, does anybody would like to make any comments? Yes.
I'm advocating for equestrian trails.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm a 20.
Yes.
Okay. I'm a 24-year-old resident, or here resident of Paw Patrol. So I've been very familiar with Loveland since we moved out here. I'm advocating for a mixed-use trail and equestrian trails.
Hold on.
And equestrian trails. And I know, Carlos, that you said it depends on the state water, but I know that there are other reservoirs in the county of San Diego and within the state that all allow dogs, mixed-use trails, equestrian. So the answer that I was given the last time, saying that it's drinking water quality, and my question to you is, how are you monitoring or mitigating the wildlife if it's drinking water? Obviously, you have a filtration and a water treatment program. So I think that that's not really the issue. I understand what you're saying, and there's going to be, monitors and things like that. But it is very well known that Poway Lakes has equestrians and mixed use there, as well as the lower reservoir and the state.
Well, I can try to answer that. I mean, it's determining supply, right? I'm happy to ask, right? All that division of drinking water, this is what we want to do. We want people to take their dogs. And if they say yes, there's not a problem. All you need to do is figure out how you're going to maintain. We're open to it, right? It's not that we want to shut it down. But what I do know is on Sweetwater Reservoir, it's been a challenge. It's been challenging to get. We don't have a maintenance plan to be able to formally expand the trail system. We're working on this loop system from connecting the north part of the reservoir and South Trail, and it's been stalled for decades. That's my understanding. So again, it's not that I don't want to. I mean, I think it's great that people can go with their pets, but certainly we'll ask and we'll meet with our water quality engineer, Mr. Sean Sturchy. Will send the letter and say, hey, this is what we'd like to do. Do you see any problems with it? And that way we'll have an answer. That it's not coming from me, it's coming from the regulators. But thanks for that, and we may point that out in other, twice will allow that other reservoirs, but Sweetwater reservoirs are held to different standards. So that is a question that I would do.
Okay, I think we're ready to go here.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Is this sound okay? So okay, all right. I'll try to speak up. I just want to preface this presentation with letting you know that last fall, Andrew Hayes was the representative from Senator Jones' office who was working with the community with concerns related to the reservoir. And Andrew asked us to survey the community and put together proposals at that time. And so this is a result of that work that involved interviewing lake users. So we tried to put together a spectrum of interests from the community. And so you'll see quite a few different proposals, and some of them have to do with expanding and improving access to fishing because this trail system was designed to support the fishing program. That's the recreation program is built around fishing, so we thought that trails that increased access to the fishing program were important. Talk about a footbridge. We're in agreement there, but putting it where Don suggested would be much less expensive because if it's at a higher point, it wouldn't need to be that size, so that's in here. And also extending the access to the shoreline further west of that, the recreation program would be vibrant even into the lower water times. And then a greater vision would be to, take advantage of it. Look how many people are here from Parks and Recreation, right? We have county representation here tonight. We have state representation here tonight. We've had federal representation from the Forest Service. So, we could always dream big and think about this money as seed money that would be part of a multi-agency collaboration to create true access that all ages and all physical abilities can enjoy in an area that in this proposal is called Veterans Park. So we'll just show you a couple pictures of those ideas. So this is just a graphic that you can see where the parking lot is. It's sort of a crescent-shaped parking lot with a dotted line down to the water. So that's the existing access to the water, and you've heard talk about a fishing float, which is represented here on the map, and that's the Sweetwater's insurance, I believe, is reimbursing the cost of the fishing float. By the way, was originally paid for by federal HUD funds. It was requested by
Congressman Duncan Hunter Sr.
Duncan Hunter Sr. Got the funding for that. So it was originally paid for by our federal tax dollars. Okay, thank you, Darlene. Thank you, I appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, yes, and John and Russell and Jesse and Don and others contributed, so please chime in as we go. So just real quickly, proposal number 1, you can see is on the east end. So Joni, can you just go, I'm taking too much time, so I'll try to go faster. Thank you. One way to increase access is to open, there's a second parking lot off of Poplar Tool Road, and we're just asking to open it. It wouldn't cost any money or heavy equipment, and we just need to make the gate open to the community to access from Poplar Tool Road, and it's also makes a connection with California riding and hiking trail. So that would give more access to the south side. Right now, it's very difficult to access that part of the fishing program.
That would also possibly be a separate parking lot on Sweetwater property as opposed to the California riding and hiking trail if that parking lot wasn't adequate. Potentially a new parking lot here to get access to the most side of the lake, which is at least doubling the access to shoreline on that side.
That's a great idea.
Thank you.
Existing,
wasn't me, by the way.
the existing California riding and hiking trail parking lot is right here with the state parking area.
Why are you really looking at this one? So there's the gate, so that's, you see what it is, so it's that other tributary, right?
Yes, it's called Taylor Creek.
Taylor Creek?
Yes.
Who owns that gate?
That's California.
It's the state?
state?
So we walk out that third far gate.
So where the number one is, the Taylor Creek exit to the Sweetwater Reservoir access roads, and SDG service roads are owned by Sweetwater. We have two gates there that access Taylor Creek. One of them has a wet crossing with a small bridge, the other one has no wet crossing.
So you like to see that open so you can access the south side of the river?
There would be potential for an ADA accessible parking area or shoreline hiking, birding, easy access with low cost development for parking on that portion through an existing gate that would have to be open and closed if you're an additional expense. The CHRT parking lot is over here, closer to the river. It's on U.S. Forest Service land with a state park easement through it. It accesses the California Oregon hiking trail both directions. It would require a road crossing to access for the CHRT down to the water and under the bridge. That is actually within your easement, but it would require adjustment of your easement to include access from that point, not just this point. You would have to allow for access on the CHRT if you need. That would be a consideration on your part there. But there's parking for safe crossing for the horses.
I feel like giving you a microphone.
Yeah, and I'll wrap it up. The river's flowing, there's no safe crossing.
No, go ahead. So people can hear what you're saying.
So this time of year, the California Oregon hiking trail has a wet crossing on Sweetwater River. When the river's flowing, you can't safely cross. So you have to park here, you have to come down onto the road shoulder. You have to cross the road on the road shoulder, cross the bridge on the road shoulder, get down to this point, and then cross the road again to get back onto the CHRT. On that state park easement through U.S. Forest Service land and Sweetwater property. So we've got 3 jurisdictions. There's an existing trail easement. This parking lot is on Forest Service land with a state park trail easement on it, but a Sweetwater lock, which I've spoken with Israel several times, and for some reason that hasn't been able to be removed. So I'm hoping that all agencies can get together and get that open. That Sweetwater can authorize this other access as also a safe access, especially during high flow.
So to summarize your presentation.
No, actually, it's not my presentation. These ideas came from you and Russell and Jessica and Don and David Thomas, etc. I guess I just like to talk. All right, so you want to talk?
Just to summarize, maybe a pedestrian gate down there when we walk down Pat Patrol Road, or a parking lot. That's it. Summarize number 1. Done. Thank you.
All right, so access to fishing on the other side of the reservoir was something that a lot of people had requested. So another possibility was a footbridge across the Narrows was an idea that had been proposed.
Well, it's even better now that we have SDG access potentially. It's even better.
I'm hearing some stories about it in the beginning. I'd like to hear more.
Okay, another idea that wouldn't cost money or disrupt any environment, wouldn't build anything new, would be to allow the public to use the existing roads that provide access to the east end, easy, safe access to the east end by following the SDG&E maintenance road.
And this is what you said you're working on with CPUC potentially, that SDG&E said that they would.
Yeah, so if SDG&E thought it was a great idea and wanted to do it, that would be the first step, and then they would still have to get approval through.
They said they would work with you.
So yeah, I think that's kind of with everyone trying to work together with whatever.
Takes a long time.
Takes a long time, it takes a village like this, but that would be something. It's just the whole, it's kind of, when you start getting into that, you get one approval process with SDG&E, and then you gotta do it all over again with the state public utility. So, it's just, that's just something to keep in mind.
That's something SDG&E said they're open to though.
I don't know if they're open to it, I mean, that's it, so, it's just a long process, something to keep in mind.
Could they be invited to the party?
We did invite them to the party.
Yeah, so several community members contacted SG&E and asked if they could be involved, and we asked Sweetwater Authority and we asked the Senator's office to please include that.
And we've got a letter of support from Supervisor, a very enthusiastic letter of support from Supervisor Anderson on this, but he broadened it to all property owners around Loveland Reservoir. Please, be open-minded and interested in, he's looking for funding from state, federal areas, and Mr. Anderson is invested in this. And I spoke with his chief of staff, Maggie Sleeper, and she was interested in this SDG easement, and then some of our other proposals, some people from Friends of Loveland Reservoir to that meeting. And so, you know, this is kind of a hopefully, you know, taking his encouragement and encouragement we're seeing just by having this meeting today and catching up with public access.
Don, did you want to speak to this slide because you mentioned earlier about the footbridge being up closer to the steps?
Well, yeah, I'll try to get my voice out here. That's what I was saying. John's one of the best around here seeing the county for trails. And that's what we thought about trails opening up. If we can come further up the trail, leave the parking lot, and find a better area to impact to go across to the float, it would be a lot better. And it's not just that bridge, it's anything to do with trails, any of our input. I would recommend we could use John as the subject matter expert. That way, you know, with the time constraints and everything, that John has, he knows the lay of the land, knows the areas, and works with, you know, the people that's gonna say, yes, this is a good place to do it, and it's gonna work out safely. That's one of my inputs. And I'm hoping that this is not just gonna stop here with 750K. I'm hoping that this opens up a good working relationship with Sweetwater. Past the 750K, maybe we'll get a grant from the state or the county or whomever. And I'm still hoping that we can also look at self-help projects where we sign a waiver and work with Sweetwater to allow us to, on the property with their approval, and to increase the recreation at zero cost, you know, with some of us going down there and just giving us a good day of work.
Okay. Well, this is all very good. Let me just offer a couple of thoughts. On the SDG easement, I did ask staff to give me a copy of the easement. I don't know if you have it, this one? No, I don't. Yeah, I'll give you a copy. So Sweetwater Authority owns that property, and we gave, I think it's a 25-foot wide easement for SDG. It's really restrictive. It's basically, we can't do anything without their permission. So all of this and contacting them, it's a good step until they say yes, right, we can use it.
Or do you want to get the permission, if you can?
Well, this brings my second issue, right? So let me offer this as a way to get your feedback. Are you interested in us using some of this money to look at a plan and look at all these ideas? I mean, all these are great ideas, but they do take work, they do take some kind of engineering, they do take some potential mitigation, environmental mitigation, and they do cost to maintain. So maybe a plan where we can do this in a short period of time, of course, working with all of you and getting feedback and input. And that sets the plan for future funding, right? At least we know that we're looking at these in close, detail. We can identify risks, benefits, pros and cons, and so forth. And this will give us all a blueprint as to what we could do in the future. Open to all of these concepts, working with all of you, and I would be interested in something like that could help us pursue additional funding, right? So we could look at something concrete now and a study that is clearly related to Loveland Trail improvements, right? I think that has some value, so I'm bringing it up for discussion if that's something that you might be interested in.
Oftentimes government agencies are made aware of grant opportunities, and yet they apply, but what they don't have in place is any plan or any conceptual design, so they lose out on the grant. So sometimes it's worth spending some dollars on putting together something that, even if it's a plan, a conceptual design that you have on a shelf someplace, when a grant opportunity comes along, you can apply and then you've got that ready. So that's kind of what we're talking about here, right?
Yes, and it really, plants the seed for future funding. I mean, that's exactly right. And I think it provides that vision, and it helps you work towards something. You're not gonna get it all done today, tomorrow, but in its due time, it will be there, right? That's the goal. So let me offer that, and if this is something that, you know, we could come and do a scoping meeting, we'll have to pick a consultant, come up and discuss it, and come up with a plan of some sort. Those are my thoughts. Now, we could look at that SDG and easement as part of this also, and figure out, you know, what's gonna be the cost to maintain, what's the risk to SDG and E, and so forth. I think that will be probably even a good vehicle to convince them to allow this use. Not to say another idea could be, you know, that easement is limited to a 25-foot wide easement. Could you go next to that easement? We could probably do that as well, right? And push SDG aside as long as there's no crossings. Or if there's a crossing, then it's just minimal impact. That is also certainly something that we could look at. Where I think there's, yeah. I mean, we could look at that. There's, you know, certainly always liability with volunteers, but if there's a framework where, you know, there's waivers of liability and so forth to stretch those hard to get dollars, hey, why not? I'm not really against it, right? But institutionally, we are very risk averse. I mean, that's how, especially water agencies show that way. So a lot of times when we say no, it's because we just don't want the risk. So we're just, I mean, we're willing to work and trying to see if there's ways that shield us from risk. I'm open to it. I'm not, you know, just of course, me and the board approval, right?
I just want to state
Yeah.
too that, that as a reminder, you know, the general manager does follow direction from the board, and that is why I'm here, right? So I think it's important to put an asterisk that, you know, when Carlos speaks about all that is possible, all the things that we can do, you know, that needs to come to the board and needs to be presented to us, and then we get direction. So I think it's very important that, you know, that we keep that concept that he, I guess, is the face, but we are the ones doing the direction. So whether that is something that ends up being something that you like or you don't like, and that's for ratepayers too, that, you know, he's receiving direction from us. And that's why I'm here too, in order to bring back this information to the rest of the board. Because we're a board of 7 that, you know, are going to listen to his input, we're going to listen to Carlos, you know, and the consultant, we end up getting one, whatever comes from this meeting. But just as a reminder that this goes beyond just Carlos. And I think that's important for all of us here to remember.
And Alessandro took great notes for the rest of the board.
Just a
Yes.
quick question, how often do you meet? Twice a month or once a month?
We meet, the general board meeting, we meet twice a month, and then we have subcommittees.
Okay, so it would be at least a 2 to 4 week lead time to get it onto an agenda, so that's almost a month out of this June 2025 process, right, just to get approval.
Let me offer
Yeah,
something.
clarify what happens with your board once you've got a plan that's gonna be submitted to the state.
I think Barry just said that, okay. This, if there's interest, we would put this as part of our proposed work plan that will be brought to the board for approval. So whether we do the bridge and the plan, that will be part of that work plan. We present it to the board, say this is what we're gonna recommend to DWR as a work plan, and the board will say, yeah, it's a great idea, or they say, no, go back and do this, or they may say, you know what, we don't wanna do it. But that's how the process works. We meet twice, third, second, and fourth Wednesday of the month at 5 p.m. July, there's no meetings, so.
So that's what I was getting at, that we're in a 15-month window right now, and if there's like maybe a month to get it onto the board to get it approved, now we're in the 14th month, so we really need to be mindful of the timeline here.
Absolutely, I think this was, that was my intent early on about the time.
And Sweetwater org, if you wanna see the, right?
Yes.
If you wanna see the, and by the way, that Sweetwater means the same thing as Humboldt does, in case you didn't know that. East County tribute. Yes?
Just a quick clarifying question for the board. Do you have a sense if the board is leaning toward projects that can be completed before the deadline in 2025? Or is the board open to this idea of like a seed project with future planning and future monies needed? Because that really puts a different parameter around projects depending
immediate need for the community. That's where I stand currently, and that's why I'm here today. I cannot speak for the rest of the board, but you know, again, all of these notes are gonna go back. I will be sharing my thoughts to the rest of the board, and hopefully we can come with a consensus that is going to be most beneficial for the community and for Sweetwater.
You're the chair, but you don't have 3 votes in the room.
Unfortunately, no, that's not, I was schooled into thinking that I had no votes, no. But I think it's really important, just again, to remember, you know, I'm here to listen as the chair of the board, but it is a 7-member board. And, you know, and it takes 4, to have, you know, that direction. But yes, I just want to answer on behalf of myself.
Just very quickly, as far as staff goes, you know, it is my responsibility to bring a plan that makes sense, that maximizes the use. We don't want to leave money on the table. Our goal is to have something that could be built. That is my responsibility as a general manager to my board and the constituents that we represent.
I don't need that. I know you mentioned the SDG&E easements, and I assume that those easements run congruent with the power lines, is that correct?
That is, yes, I think there's a, you have one slide showing that, where the parking lot is? Do you have that? So there you go, so see, you can find out where that trail, right, see the parking lot to the left, that is the parking lot, and then there's a gate that then continues, that is all the SDG&E, there you go. That whole trail, that's the SDG&E easement.
So the entire trail, and I assume, I don't know if the yellow line is representing where the power lines are, or the yellow line is, it's hard to see from out here.
Power lines are approximately at these locations.
So those fire roads that have been in existence the entire time, those are all granted to SDG&E as part of the easement?
They are, it's owned by Sweetwater, but SDG&E holds the easement.
Do they have an exclusive use easement?
It is not an exclusive use, yet they decide what happens on that easement. So yes, technically, it's not defined as an exclusive easement, but once you read the definition, they have full control. We have some very limited, as the grantee,
You're the grantor.
We're the grantor, as the grantor.
Doesn't SDG&E still owe the community of Alpine something from a project that went through?
Yeah, we do have, as the grantor, we do have some rights over that easement, but not open it up to the public.
So that is what SDG&E says to do. We didn't get a lot of feedback. We don't have power like some of the people in this room to make SDG&E get along to it. Please give us emails back and include the county member, myself, and other people.
Go ahead and say it again.
SDG&E actually did give us some feedback from the land use department saying that the opinion of the property owner would be very important.
Of course.
And while we're on this bridge, I want to say real quickly, when our collaborators and the people we were asking about the footbridge, I mean, there are cheaper alternatives. But when we talked about this footbridge, we were not thinking about $400,000 out of $750,000. So it's still in there, it's still in our proposal, but that scenario has changed quite a bit from what we presented openly to the public and to members of Friends of Loveland Reservoir and Don and John and others. And you'll see our collaborator list at the end, and we didn't look at that type of money.
Fellas, I'm gonna ask the question here, and this does not hold anybody to anything, it's just kind of a straw poll. How many here liked the idea of using some of the money, and I hate to like dictate how much, but some of the money to put together a plan in place that would set up a potential of additional funding opportunities down the road? How many like that idea? How many don't like that idea? Okay, so it was not all the hands went up, but you know, but more hands went up on the board. Yes.
Can I add?
Yes.
Can I add to your question?
Yeah.
How many people would like to keep the cost down by including volunteers in the planning process? Okay, thank you. I just wouldn't want a huge amount of money going into the planning and then having a small outcome
I let it go sideways, so go ahead and finish.
Thank you.
Very small.
Oh,
One more sideways inquiry. Are we interested in taking the low-hanging fruit? Like what John talks about, of things that can be implemented with volunteer labor and pretty immediately?
Yes.
Are we interested in that?
Yes. That just takes me back to point number one. Sweetwater, it rightly is concerned with safety and water quality. And so I think, I can only speak for myself, but I think those are important priorities to respect. And simply opening that gate on Hopatol Road vastly increases access to the fishing program, and it's access through existing user-defined trails, so there's no maintenance cost, there's no safety issue, and there's no threat to water quality because it's no different fish on the south side than it is on the north side, right? So that could be done immediately and greatly improve the recreational program and not impact this budget at all.
Appreciate your point, Mary.
Yeah.
Sure.
You said that this is a public works project? Is that what you said this would be?
So it has to go,
It's state funding,
right,
so
so
yes,
it has to
has
go out to bid, so it can't just be, oh, everybody get together on Saturday and put in their work.
That is
Right.
correct.
That is correct.
We can go forward, and I know this is a really long.
Let me just answer it really quickly and save some time on all this, because we could get into a lot of detail on this. The whole concept of volunteers oftentimes plays against federal and state law when it comes to how public dollars are used and how they have to be bid out and who gets to do the work and all that. So we'll just leave it at that, and you want to, unless you want to add to it?
No, I'm just whatever setup we do, will have to be reviewed by legal counsel. So if legal counsel says, hey, go for it, and, we're good, we just have to have so-and-so template agreement, I'm open to it. But yes, very simple, good point, there's prevailing wage requirements that have to be followed. Usually, we get requests for information because there's some groups that want to make sure that we are actually paying the right wage, because otherwise it feels that we're taking the opportunity. So it's a little bit more complicated than that. But for some things, certainly maybe not for construction, but for ongoing maintenance, and this is something to address your issue, is, okay, we can open the gate, but if now there's public access, there needs to be portable restrooms, there needs to be trash cans, so it does require a little more work from somebody, right? Who that somebody is, I think we can figure out who that is.
Is there any restrooms in the legal fishing area or Sweetwater's obligation?
They are.
Already, there's not enough, and so they're too far apart. One restroom is 3,000 meters apart from the previous restroom, so that wouldn't be a cost to the public. To put appropriate restrooms per the 1997 fishing agreement wouldn't be a cost. And they're missing, and they're frankly missing.
Caroline, your presentation's really taken a long time.
I apologize, but the good thing is that the presentation represents many different voices, not just me. Let's see.
Just one more slide here.
Okay, mine, okay. All right, so now we're thinking big. I think everybody is familiar, I'll just very briefly say that we did experience having the reservoir completely drained and the fishing program denied. So one thought is to redefine the boundaries of the fishing program. The red dotted line next to the number 5 is the current limit of the fishing program, and it could be moved west. That has been discussed according to the past, and so that, talking about safety and accessibility to make this opportunity available to more people moving the buoy line to that area aligns with access to shoreline, but it's much easier and can be accessed more safely. So going to the next, oh wait, let me stop, because experts in the room, subject matter experts in the room, did you want to add to that?
You did great.
Okay, let's go forward. So that's a summary of those 5 proposals. Now, we did, have earlier mentioned this is dog-friendly areas, and that's where we got really excited about the SCG&E easement area, because that point number 3 would also support folks who want to walk with dogs. We did have an opportunity to meet with the executive officer from the Region 9 Water Quality Board, which is the agency that gives Sweetwater its water permits, and they looked at our proposals and said they'd be very happy to expedite permits for these project ideas. So I know that was a concern that was expressed at the January meeting. But just going forward, sorry.
Okay. I do want to make one comment. Can you go back? Thank you. Okay, so one request, and this was added late in the process before we submitted this to Sweetwater Authority and Andrew Hayes, was for, I'm sorry, this came late, but the Senator Sweetwater Authority Vision Plan for Loveland Reservoir, and this was a request from a director from Friends of Loveland Reservoir who's not here. Kim Hells, who's not here today, but this was something that if we had a vision plan, and I think we're talking about that now, sort of with us tonight, so that's fantastic. That was one of our proposals, not a right.
Thank you, I'm sorry I missed that. But yeah, Kim thought it would be a good idea to hear what Sweetwater's vision was while we're presenting our. Okay, then the last idea was to come up with a multi-government agency cooperation, because we do have interest from the county and Supervisor Anderson's office, along with Senator Jones' office, and just really thinking about public health for our community, thinking about what it means for families, parents, children, grandparents, grandchildren, working people to have access to this really health, soul-fulfilling experience of being in a natural area. And, we hear all the time about the suffering in our veteran community, and we really thought it would be an amazing thing if access were created for folks who were less able, but able to go fishing, but not able to scale the rocks. And all ages having access to the water. And so that's the idea behind the Veterans Park proposal. And which, if you could just put on the next slide. So that would be located where the new buoy line is. And John, you know the lay of the land. So can you describe why that location was identified? And Russell also could do that, and maybe others in the room.
Just real quickly, what I know of this particular alignment is it's actually a portion of the old original truck track. This was an old thoroughfare. So there's a graded road that's reasonably ADA/vehicle accessible down to what's covered here is a lollipop turnaround area. It could be, with minimal grading and soil disturbance, expanded to allow for more parking.
Trucks drive that right now.
It's accessible for Sweetwater trucks. We're using it as a service access road. Yes.
There's the gate up.
There's a gate up here on Seacon Truck Trail, and they may have a gate here. I don't know. I haven't reached the no trespassing signs this way, but I studied from afar. So this one looks like it's just, according to Mr. Cantaro, just one gate on Seacon Truck Trail would be in question there. It could be relocated down to here, and that, or down to here, and that would leave this secure. As far as vehicle access, this would still be close to vehicles with a simple relocation of the gate to that point. It then allows for foot traffic with a pretty good contour line along the shoreline here into the existing access area. There's a nice game, I've been to this point, there's a nice game trail and a nice alignment back over to that Lily Club parking area. It follows a 4 to 6% contour, which state parks and mountain bike folks will tell you is a prime alignment for a trail, ADA accessible trail. So we can get limited mobility, maybe not wheelchair access, but limited mobility, grandpa, grandchild, limited mobility folks into the existing easement or the expanded easement with minimal effort and construction costs.
So the idea on this was not to make it incredibly expensive, but to give veterans maybe a couple of gazebos and for shading. And also now the fishing float, unfunded fishing float, I understand you have approximately a year to complete repairs on that. So
Plus to get the depreciation. So we're looking at $15,000 that we spend on
some depreciation. But that one idea, and the time frame is probably really not good for us all at all, was maybe put the unfunded fishing float insurance replacement in this area, because it's really, it could be a wheelchair device. This could be a wheelchair accessible location, or just for people in their last years of mobility and people with kids on backpacks, things like that. Thank you all. And we're going to show our list of collaborators. And go ahead. I want to thank all these people, and there are many more. And I'm not going to go by name, but we went by alphabetical order in all cases. And a special thank you to Andrew Hayes, and now much more staff from Senator Jones' office, including Kyle Herman and Nick Burris.
Yeah,
and just we want to make sure everybody who has individual comments well has time to do that. But I did want to, you just said it, but I know Senator Jones and this staff may be saying, what did Andrew Hayes get us into? but a special thanks for Andrew Hayes for being the original constituent outreach person on that. So, okay, individual comments from anybody that would like to provide input on how the $750,000 should be used.
I just wanted to, I'm not sure where exactly the veterans part came from. Oh, thank you. But I think, Carolyn, you made a great point saying, it's encompassing for all ages, all family generations. And I think just to minimize it to veterans only really kind of discriminates everybody else that you described. So I know that there was some, talk earlier about Friends of Loveland trying to sell plaques and things like this. And obviously all of this is going to come up to Sweetwater authorities, blessing on any of this. But I think that, making this a veterans park, because everybody that you just described in there were not veterans. Yeah. And so I think that it really just minimizes, I have, the utmost respect for veterans, but I think that this is, you're taking one piece of the pie that you're describing on making this accessible to all ages. And I think when you put the label veterans on it, it gives everybody else the impression that it's really exclusive for veterans only. And I think that we probably should drop the veterans. And I'm all for making it more accessible for those that are physically challenged to be able to access and take advantage, of Loveland. But I think when you're just using that one label, it kind of discriminates from everybody else.
Okay. Russ, I want to come back.
Yeah, I think we did that. We all care about veterans, and we think politicians care about veterans. And so, but as far as being fixated on that particular name, no. We like to help them. We did some of this at the VFW, and so, yes, we do care about veterans. That can be a flexible issue.
Right. Yeah. If you're gonna put a number of elected officials together on something, there may be ways to incentivize them. Yes.
I wanted to make a comment about the park as well. We're getting ready to get I think 25-acre, $23 million park in Alpine. So I don't know that we really need another park, but that's just my feedback. And then I think John's been waiting patiently for his turn.
John, you didn't have your turn? Did you have something? Oh.
I actually have a brief presentation as well. A lot of it is similar to what's already been discussed. I'll try to run through it very quickly. I want to thank everybody that made it here tonight. I know I did a little bit of personal outreach to maybe a few folks here. I certainly appreciate that. To me, those who know me know this cause is very close to my heart and soul as far as a regional recreational access hub. I don't see this as just a fishing reservoir or just Loveland Reservoir. This to me is South and East Counties regional alternative transportation, recreational resource access, gold mine of ecological tourism, riding, biking, hiking, running, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is the central piece that has parking, that's a crossroads and a junction of existing state park trails easement with the California Riding Hiking Trail, the county parks master plan, connections to community. We have a regional and statewide mandate of sorts with grant funding available as discussed by some parties to have these community connections. Much of this area, as many of you who've lived here for any period of time knows, was connected by truck trails and horse trails and historic routes. As development has occurred, as the county has allowed the parcels to be subdivided and developed and roads to be privatized and closed, we've lost those connectors. So we've lost Forest Service routes with digging a land swap or security concerns during 9/11 or privatization or whatever. I'll try to tie what I'm talking about here into this. This orange line here is the old West Boundary Truck Trail that also runs all the way over to Glen Lonely and ultimately connects to U.S. Forest Service land into Horsemeat Canyon and beyond. So we have a regional connection of trails all the way east to Campo that ties into Loveland Reservoir property, Sweetwater property right here, down into Sloan Canyon. It runs through State Park. It actually originates at State Park. It's an old Forest Service road that was open to the public and rideable by horse equestrian community members, drivable at one time by people. There's still residents who live below the dam down in this area. So we'd like to open that back up as both Forest Service fire break. Anybody interested in the state parks and the U.S. Forest Service, we have funding for fire breaks and fuel breaks. There's an existing fire break right along this bridge that creates substantial erosion problems. It's an unsustainable alignment, but it's a required fire break. This would be a secondary backup line that runs a similar ridge that protects the community of Lawson Valley, connects Lawson Valley into Sloan Canyon and Humboldt and Dehesa. Sloan Canyon runs out to Dehesa School. We have a parking lot at Dehesa School. We have a community trust line that ties down to Sweetwater Reservoir. The Sweetwater River Park actually originates up here with the California Riding Hiking Trail that ties up into Cuyamaca. With parking at both ends of Loveland Reservoir on the CHRT, on the state easement. So it's all tying together. Like somebody said, we want to dream big. For me, this is about a regional plan. This is about the Mountain Bike Association and the ultra runners being able to actually run from Otay Lakes to Anta if they want to. They can. We have that alignment, but we need somewhere to park for them. They want to go just 20 miles instead of 60. It ties up in Alpine. We have Rice Field. We have a community connection already on the CHRT into Alpine via the CHRT. We also have a possible alignment along out of the parking lot, across the Quantric Trail, and across the water property / county road easements back up into Rice Field. So there's possibilities. I really want to just really get rid of the possibilities. So this is existing road. This is existing road for the most part. This is my proposed California Riding Hiking Trail. And again, thank you to State Parks for showing up on that. Right now, this alignment of the California Riding Hiking Trail runs on Sequoia Truck Trail up here on an asphalt road. It used to be a dirt road. It's now an asphalt road with horses trying to ride it. Not the best situation. Not even great for bikes. We have an existing road. Instead of going by a shooting range of an asphalt road, we can use an old Forest Service road until it gets a little too close with respect for security concerns and dam and privacy of residents keepers. There's a ridge line and some other alternative. There's also some other roads up in this area. So again, minimal disturbance, minimal grading, minimal CEQA. I've worked with the county and the board of supervisors. I've seen other plans go through. Most of these end up being CEQA exempt and or operational discretional matters for your board, potentially. So we get the CHRT or an alternate route of the CHRT, if it's not a formal realignment, off the road for people to enjoy, well away from the water. Horses are allowed 100 feet from water, 200 feet of wet crossing per waterboard. If they prove that, what we have is horses maybe up to 100 feet from the water, dogs 50 feet from the water. So this is well beyond that, going uphill, away from the water, no water body issues.
much safer for everybody, the pedestrians, the car drivers, the horse riders, the runners, everybody. Back over to more what we've been talking about. This is the road coming down into that what was mentioned as Veterans Park area, connecting into the existing easement. Much safer than the 100-foot bluff right here. This is a vertical cliff. In the existing access, with user-defined trails, we have a 100-foot vertical bluff with crumbling rocks. This gives safe access into the existing easement, in the existing fishing program. Let's see. My yellow trail here is essentially the SDG easements we've been talking about. Excuse me, it's not. That's an existing trail, former California Riding Hiking Trail. There's this yellow line coming down at this point, and then picks up an old highway alignment in the existing easement and gives access to that south shore, which is also part of the existing program up to this point. This would be a short extension if we get approval to tie in to Lawson Valley and have that community connection. This is all user-defined trail, no cost. This is the SEGE roads with an AD accessible overlook, some martial arts, Tai Chi, yoga, Pilates type points possible, and that shoreline access when water lines, when water heights allow it, there would be ADA fishing access down here at the end of that road. I don't want to take any more time, we're running short. Let's keep our open minds, let's do the agency thing, let's do the right thing, make this what it can be, make this a regional recreational resource. We're talking about carbon reduction, reduction of miles driven, restoring split communities, all these things are in the county plan. All of these are in the county master trails plan as far as the community connections. The internal ones are all Sweetwater owned and under their discretion control and pre-existing minimal investments and costs. They're all most of them are pre-approved and existing. The prior program, CEQA exempt or pre-approved operational discretional decisions. So that's what stay involved, spread the word, get your friends, get your family, get us talking, work with Sweetwater, work with the other agencies. Let's make this happen.
Yeah, so we're running out of time, so I want to make sure individual comments. Yes.
I just want to say, I live out in Carver for 20 years out in Popsicle Valley too, but I would like to say there's been a lot of work done by individuals here, and I really appreciate it. And it really shows me that you guys have put a lot of thought, and for my first time meeting, I'll be honest with you, it sounds like a really great plan. And I'd really like to see us work together. My suggestion is maybe you guys and John, could you maybe go to the board of directors and give the presentation to you guys?
Yeah.
Meetings
are open to the public, and that's any public, anywhere, anytime.
But being the president, you could put that on your agenda.
Yes, I could.
And so, because it sounds like a great plan, I mean, I personally don't want you to drain the lake anymore because I'm tired of having it drained, but go ahead. That's why I'm really here, but I think this is a great plan. Can they go to the board? Which the date?
So Carlos, you gotta say something. We got something here. Any other individual comments from the public? Yes, in the back.
Have the fish been restocked since the lake drain, which in the beginning you had talked about the bridge needing to be done because of erosion and blame the storm, but just kind of from general knowledge, it sounds like that erosion probably happened because the lake was drained, but now there's probably no more fish in there for all this wonderful fishing that everybody wants to do.
Did everybody hear the question?
Yeah, right. What have you done about restocking
I
the
did
fish?
a photo from somebody catching a pretty large fish. I mean, I'm not a fisherman, fish. But there's some fish. I think there's been certainly a discussion, something we can reach out to Senator Jones about. There's a school of thought that says that fish, the lake needs to be stocked with natural fish, like native fish, which is really only trout. The trout has to be done probably every year. Or you restock with non-native fish, which is not optimal. So, no, we have not done anything. We're hoping that eventually the fishing population will reestablish itself. But this is something that we have money, we could add it to our plan. See what the WR says. So that's something that is needed. Just a thought. maybe Travis, I'll give you a call one of the days to see maybe if you're a planning group, there's an opportunity to continue some of this dialogue, to send information, if that's okay. I know that this was sort of part of your master plan for recreation in the area. Or we could follow a similar forum like this one. I mean, I think this is a great spot. And as we make a presentation to our board, if the board gives me direction, then we'll start working with you to come up with a scope as to what we should do as part of this trail master plan, if you will. And then pick a consultant that will start looking at all the details.
And is the state or is Sweetwater in charge of the money? Because honestly, I've been a little bit confused. I know it's public money, but it sounds like
It's state money given to Sweetwater. Sweetwater gets to use it as long as they submit a plan that's satisfactory to the state.
And what happens to any remaining funds to keep them from being used?
Usually they get returned to the general fund if they don't get used.
Okay.
That's the state has, I don't know the number, but it started at a $38 billion shortfall and it might not be up to 60 something. So I think my concern, that's why I think it's good to submit a plan as soon as we can to get an agreement. Because as I mentioned earlier, this money was frozen and now released. And it might get frozen again, right? That is up to the governor. And then you can ask the senator's staff, it's not easy trying to do this money release.
That's right.
It requires probably another act of the legislature to get this money released. So just keep that in mind. I know there's a lot of great ideas, but time is sort of the essence. So we want to move quickly as far as government agencies move. And this for us is about a 3-month time.
We've got a comment right here.
My thoughts are a field visit. If we're gonna meet again, meet at the field.
I mean, we can meet in the parking lot, that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, certainly we could do, field trips to go look at things from time to time. That's certainly a possibility. You know, it's March, the weather is kind of cold now, it should be kind of nice in the next few weeks, but then it's gonna get really hot. But we can leave it early, you know. Yeah, so,
comment here.
So as somebody who works on these types of things and this type of funding quite a bit, you guys are gonna have to narrow it down, and in my opinion, it's either gonna be hiring a consultant to do a plan that has a larger scope, and then with that plan, you can have things that are shovel-ready, and you go out and get that money, and there's plenty of that money to get. Or you buy yourself a thing. You buy yourself a bridge and maybe some improvements to the parking lot, and that's what you get. But a larger vision would be to hire a consultant and do a larger plan with a bigger vision, and then go after the grants for those shovel-ready projects.
And I saw a lot of hands in here on that concept.
Yeah, we got 6 minutes.
Okay, so, one brief comment?
Brief comment, well, and I hope you're getting to this, but what is the next step? And I hope hiring a consultant is a great idea, but I want to make sure I have experience with consultants. And we want to make sure that they're very new with Loveland, and we want to make sure we have representative preferably from several different groups. Probably from one who did their presentation today, who works with that consultant to come up with a long-term comprehensive plan that covers a feasibility study and racks and stacks all these different proposals.
yeah, I thank you for that. Just, we will put something together. I need to get approval from my board, and then it goes to DWR. So we wouldn't even, we just have to estimate how much the consultant will cost. So assume $75,000 for them to look at this comprehensively. We still have to develop a scope of work that I would value your input, and then this gets circulated with consultants that do this kind of work, and then we'll pick someone, whoever we think is the best consultant, and then we'll work on community engagement to get your feedback, and then they'll go out and do their drawings and analysis, and my intention is to have this interactive, so as we have a deliverable, then there'll be a presentation, a forum like this one, where the consultant will be presenting whatever they develop to the community.
A lot of hands up. What do you want to do next? Are we ready? Okay, some brief comments? Okay.
There was some hand raising, and so can I ask, out of the group here, how many people like the plan that was presented? it also included the bridge. Can,
There was a number of plans.
You-
There's a lot of plans.
Yeah, I think there was more than one, plan, and there were a lot of aspects of some of the
The
plans.
vote should be hire a consultant to do a plan or buy yourself a thing, one bridge.
So when I asked the question
Yeah.
about whether people like the concept of spending some dollars on putting a plan together that then lends to
Leveraging more money.
leveraging the money for later dollars, is a good word for it, about half the hands went up. When I asked if anybody was opposed to that, I didn't see any hands go up.
I mean, I think there's an opportunity to add both to the work plan. Now, we need to get this done. If there's a change, we can push it. If there is a change, we can do an amendment. So the thing is to get a plan approved by DWR and an agreement. We are the grant recipient. We are responsible for the reporting, the proper use of the funding, and so forth. So, we want to honor that commitment that we have. But again, time is of the essence, so I'd like to submit something, again, get an agreement, and if somehow we decide that, you know what, we don't want this bridge, we go to the DWR and tell them, hey, we don't want the bridge, we want something else. And there's an amendment process for the agreement that basically reflects this.
All right, I see two more comments back here. I just want to,
Very quickly, can we set a limitation on the amount for the consultant? So we're not, like you threw $75,000 out there. So the whole $750,000 or half of it isn't being spent on the consultant, and then there's no money left over for the trails. Can we set a reasonable amount?
What I would suggest is that, I think you've got a board member and general manager here, they're gonna be frugal with dollars and probably not go spend $300,000 on a consultant.
in that we're very aligned.
Yeah, so I think, that's, so anything else before Nick wraps this thing up?
I'd like to ask the board to put Loveland put a meeting like this for your board on your agenda immediately. It's a month out at least, a month or 6 weeks out. A second item would be that the board reveal as an agenda item their commitment to restocking the lake. The third item is to restore sunrise to sunset access to the lake. And this is part of the original land swap that got Sweetwater.
okay, yeah. So we'll again, all of that is items to be addressed at another time other than this meeting. So we are right at almost 7 o'clock. So real quick, I just want to thank again Alpine Wilderness Club for hosting. Carlos and his staff. I just want to other way around. The chairwoman and
The chairwoman
and her baby.
As long as she gets 3 other votes.
Exactly. So again, I just want to thank them for being here, coming out here. Again, I just want to reiterate from our perspective, again, maybe just my own personal perspective, aside from my role at Senator Jones' office. Please use this as an opportunity to move forward. There's an unbelievable amount of great proposals that were put forward tonight. The opportunity of presenting multiple proposals to a professional to come up with some actual plans that might be shovel-ready to continue to build the relationships with all the different government agencies and other citizen groups involved. Just continue to keep it going and working together is my suggestion. Again, that's it. That's all I got.
I appreciate everybody, being here. I think this is a very good conversation, productive. I really hope that we start moving the needle, slowly. And certainly, I really want to thank Senator Jones' staff. I mean, they did great, Frank and Kyle, and Barry for helping us facilitate this. I think we look forward to continuing this collaboration and working with you in the very near future.
Yeah, and I will highly recommend Barry to continue to facilitate. It's kind of good at it.
Does that mean I get more than a cup of coffee next time?
And I'm for a lot.
All right, thank you you everyone for coming. I appreciate everyone. I think Nick said it, but thank you and have a good night. And we hope to hear more.